My fiancée told her friends, after marriage, I'll make him put the house in my name. He's too soft to say no. She didn't know I'd already finalized the deed transfer to my sister. When she brought it up during dinner and I slid the paper across the table, her smile froze mid-sentence. I'm 31, and until about 6 weeks ago I thought I was going to marry someone who loved me for who I was. Her name was Vanessa. We'd been together for 2.5 years, engaged for 7 months. She was a real estate agent, successful at what she did, confident in a way that made me feel like I'd found someone who had their life together. I liked that about her. She was driven, ambitious, always talking about her next big sale or her next career move. I inherited my house from my grandmother 3 years ago. It's a modest 2-story and a decent neighborhood, nothing extravagant, but it's fully paid off and worth about $340,000 in today's market. My grandmother raised me after my parents died when I was 8. She was everything to me. When she passed, she left the house to me and a small trust fund to my younger sister Claire, who was finishing grad school at the time. Vanessa moved in about 8 months after we started dating. She paid a small amount toward utilities and groceries, but never rent since I owned the place outright. I didn't mind. I figured we were building a life together. She redecorated, replaced my grandmother's old curtains with modern ones, repainted the living room a gray color I didn't particularly like, but didn't hate either. She said it increased the home's value. I shrugged and let her do her thing. The first red flag came about 4 months ago. We were at brunch with her friends, Kendall and Shayla. They were talking about one of their mutual friends whose husband had recently filed for divorce. The woman was apparently going to lose everything because nothing had been in her name. That's why you always protect yourself, Shayla said, sipping her mimosa. Get your name on everything before you say I do. Vanessa laughed. Oh, trust me, I'm already planning that conversation. I looked up from my eggs Benedict. What conversation? She waved her hand dismissively. Nothing, babe. Girl talk. But Kendall smirked. Smart girl. Especially with real estate. Once your name's on that deed, you're protected no matter what. I didn't say anything, but something in my chest tightened. After brunch, in the car, I asked Vanessa what they'd been talking about. It's just smart financial planning, she said, checking her lipstick in the visor mirror. Women need to protect themselves. You understand that, right? Protect yourself from what? I didn't mean it like that. I just meant in general. Don't be so sensitive. I dropped it, but I didn't forget it. The second red flag came 3 weeks later. I came home early from work one afternoon and heard Vanessa on the phone in the kitchen. She didn't hear me come in. No, Mom, I know what I'm doing. The house is worth at least $340. Once we're married, I'll bring it up casually. He's too soft to say no. He barely even argued when I repainted. She laughed. I know, right? He's sweet, but he's a pushover. I'm not worried. I stood in the hallway, frozen. My heart was pounding so hard I thought she'd hear it. I backed out quietly, closed the front door loudly, and called out like I'd just arrived. Hey, babe, I'm home. She came around the corner, smiling. Hey, you're early. Everything okay? Yeah, just finished up early. How was your day? Good. Just talking to my mom. I nodded, went upstairs, sat on the edge of the bed for 20 minutes trying to process what I'd heard. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying her words. Too soft to say no. He's a pushover. I'd always thought my kindness was a strength, but to her it was a weakness. Something to exploit. The next morning, I called Claire, told her everything. Are you serious? Claire sounded furious. She actually said that? Word for word. What are you going to do? I don't know. I need to think. Claire was quiet for a moment. Then she said, You know, there's something Gran used to say. Protect what's yours before someone else decides it's theirs. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting you get ahead of this. If she's planning to manipulate you into signing over the house, you need to make sure that's not an option. How? Transfer it. To me. Temporarily. You trust me, right? I did. Claire was the only family I had left. She'd never screw me over. Let me think about it. I spent the next 2 days researching, looked into deed transfers, asset protection, what my options were. Legally, I could transfer the house to Claire as a gift. It would take about 2 weeks to process. If things went south with Vanessa, I could transfer it back. If things somehow worked out, I could explain it as protecting my grandmother's legacy until I was sure about the marriage. I made the decision on a Thursday, called a real estate attorney, explained the situation without going into too much detail, and started the paperwork. By the following Friday, the deed transfer was finalized. The house was now in Claire's name. I still lived there, still paid all the bills, but legally, I owned nothing. Vanessa had no idea. Update 1. The next 2 weeks were strange. I watched Vanessa differently. Noticed how she'd casually mention our house in conversations with her friends. How she'd talk about future renovations like they were a given. How she'd suggest I refinance to pull out equity for investments she wanted to make. I played along, smiled, nodded, acted like the soft, agreeable guy she thought I was. Then came the dinner. It was a Friday night, about 3 weeks after the deed transfer finalized. Vanessa had been dropping hints all week about having an important conversation. I knew what was coming. She made pasta, opened a bottle of wine, set the table with candles, the whole production. "So," she said, twirling her fork in her spaghetti, "I've been thinking about our future." "Yeah? What about it?" "About making sure we're both protected. Financially." "Okay." She set down her fork. "I think it makes sense before we get married to put the house in both our names, just to make things official. You know, so we're equal partners." I took a sip of wine. "Equal partners." "Exactly. It's not that I don't trust you, it's just smart planning. My mom even said it's the responsible thing to do." "Your mom said that?" "Yeah. She's been through a divorce. She knows how messy things can get when assets aren't clear." I nodded slowly. "So you want your name on the deed?" "Our names. Together, as a couple." She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "I love you. I want us to build a life together. But I also want to protect myself. You understand that, right?" I pulled my hand back gently, stood up, walked to the living room where I'd left my briefcase earlier. "What are you doing?" she called after me. I came back with a folder, sat down, slid it across the table to her. "What's this?" she asked, smiling like she thought it was some kind of romantic gesture. "Open it." She opened the folder. Her smile faltered as she scanned the first page, then the second. Her face went pale. What is this?" "It's the deed to the house. Well, the new deed. I transferred it to my sister 3 weeks ago." Her eyes snapped up to mine. "You did what?" "I transferred ownership to Claire. Legally, I don't own this house anymore." "That's impossible. You can't just... Why would you..." "Because I overheard you on the phone with your mom, talking about how I'm too soft to say no, how you'd manipulate me into putting your name on it after we got married." She stared at me. For a long moment, neither of us said anything. Then she laughed, high-pitched, nervous. "Babe, you're taking that out of context. I didn't mean it like, don't." My voice was calm. "I heard exactly what you meant. And then at brunch, your friends basically confirmed you've been planning this for months." She stood up, knocking her wine glass over. Red wine spread across the white tablecloth. "So what? You just decided to transfer the house out from under me? Without even talking to me?" "It was never under you. It was mine. From my grandmother. And I protected it from someone who saw me as a pushover instead of a partner." "You're insane. You know that? You're paranoid and insane." "Maybe. But I'm not stupid." She grabbed her purse. "I'm going to my mom's. We'll talk when you've calmed down. Don't bother coming back." She froze at the door. Excuse me? You heard me. Pack your things this weekend. You can stay at your mom's until you find a new place. This is my home, too. No, it's not. It never was. You lived here because I let you. Now I'm asking you to leave. She slammed the door so hard a picture frame fell off the wall. Update 2. Vanessa didn't come back that night, or the next. On Sunday afternoon, she showed up with her mom and Kendall. I was in the garage organizing tools when they walked in through the side door. We need to talk, Vanessa's mom, Linda, announced. She was a shorter, harder version of Vanessa, all sharp edges and tight lips. There's nothing to talk about. You can't just kick my daughter out of her home. It's not her home. Never was. Linda stepped closer. She's lived here for almost 2 years. She has rights. She was a guest who paid minimal expenses. She has no legal claim to this property. We'll see about that. I've already contacted a lawyer. I leaned against my workbench. Good luck with that. The property isn't even in my name anymore. It's in my sister's. Vanessa has zero claim to anything. Vanessa spoke up for the first time. Why are you doing this? I love you. We were going to get married. You love my house. There's a difference. That's not true. Then why did you tell your mom I was too soft to say no when you asked me to put your name on the deed? Why did you tell your friends you were planning to protect yourself by getting your name on my assets? Linda's face hardened. Smart women protect themselves. Smart men do too. Kendall, who'd been silent until now, finally spoke. Vanessa, maybe we should just go. No! Vanessa's voice cracked. I'm not leaving. Half the stuff in this house is mine. I paid for the furniture, the decorations. Take it. All of it. I don't want any of it. Her eyes welled up. For a second, I almost felt bad. Then I remembered her laughing on the phone about what a pushover I was. You're going to regret this, Linda said, when you're alone in this house with nothing but your pride to keep you warm. I'll take my chances. They left. Vanessa came back Monday morning with a moving truck and 2 friends. I stayed in my bedroom while they cleared out her belongings. Took about 3 hours. When they were done, she knocked on my door. Can I come in? I opened it. She looked exhausted. I'm sorry, she said quietly. I didn't mean for things to go this far. I was just scared. My mom drilled it into my head that I needed to protect myself, and I listened to her instead of trusting you. That's the problem. You never trusted me. You saw me as someone to manage, not someone to love. That's not fair. Isn't it? You literally called me a pushover. She wiped her eyes. I know. I screwed up. But we can fix this. We can go to therapy, work through it. I don't want to fix it. I want you to leave. She stood there for another moment, like she was waiting for me to change my mind. When I didn't, she turned and walked out. I heard the front door close, heard the moving truck pull away. Then it was just quiet. Update 3. The next few days were weird. The house felt empty without all of Vanessa's stuff. The gray living room walls I'd never liked suddenly seemed stark and cold. I repainted them back to the warm beige my grandmother had chosen. It took me an entire weekend, but it felt right. Claire called me every day to check in. How are you holding up? I'm okay, honestly. Good. Because Vanessa's been posting on social media. About what? About how you stole the house from her. How you manipulated her. She's getting a lot of sympathy from her friends. I sighed. Of course she is. Do you want me to say something? No, let her vent. The people who matter know the truth. But it bothered me more than I let on. I checked her Instagram that night. Sure enough, there were posts about narcissistic partners and financial abuse and escaping toxic relationships. The comments were full of her friends supporting her, calling me every name in the book. I almost responded, almost posted my side of the story. But then I remembered something my grandmother used to say, Don't wrestle with pigs. You both get dirty, and the pig likes it. So I stayed silent. A week later, I got a letter from Linda's lawyer. It was exactly what I expected. A demand that I compensate Vanessa for improvements she'd made to the property and for unjust enrichment since she'd lived there. They were asking for $45,000. I forwarded it to my own lawyer, the same one who'd helped me with the deed transfer. She laughed when she read it. They have no case. She was a guest in a property you owned. She made voluntary improvements without a written agreement, and now you don't even own it anymore. Tell them to pound sand. My lawyer sent back a response that was professional but firm. Vanessa had no legal claim to any compensation. The property was no longer in my name. Any further harassment would be met with a countersuit for defamation based on her social media posts. Linda's lawyer never responded. Update 4. About 6 weeks after Vanessa moved out, I ran into Kendall at the grocery store. She saw me first, hesitated like she was going to pretend she hadn't, then walked over. Hey. Hey, I said, not particularly warm. Listen, I just want to say, I think Vanessa went too far with all the social media stuff. Okay. And I think maybe she wasn't being completely honest about what happened. I waited. Kendall shifted her weight. She told us you kicked her out for no reason. That you were controlling about money and paranoid she was going to take advantage of you. But Shayla heard from someone else what really happened. About the phone call you overheard. And I think you had every right to protect yourself. She's been different lately, ever since her mom got more involved in her life. It's like she started seeing everything as a transaction. Yeah, I noticed. I'm sorry, for what it's worth. Thanks. She nodded and walked away. It didn't change anything, but it felt like a small vindication. Around the same time, Claire and I started talking about the house. She'd been holding the deed for 2 months, and we needed to figure out the next step. Do you want me to transfer it back? She asked, over coffee at her apartment. Not yet. I'm thinking about selling it eventually. Too many memories here now. What would you do with the money? Maybe buy something smaller, or travel for a while. I've been working nonstop for years. Maybe it's time to just live a little. Claire smiled. Gran would have liked that. Yeah, she would have. We decided to keep the house in Claire's name for another 6 months, just to be safe. If Vanessa or Linda tried anything else legally, they'd hit a dead end. After that, we'd reassess. Final update. It's been 5 months since Vanessa moved out. The house is still in Claire's name and I'm still living here, but I've started looking at properties in other cities. I work remotely, so I have flexibility. I'm thinking somewhere near the coast, somewhere that doesn't remind me of the last 2.5 years. I heard through mutual acquaintances that Vanessa's engaged again. Some guy she met through work. They've been together for 3 months. Part of me wanted to feel vindicated, like it proved she'd never really loved me. But mostly, I just felt tired. Linda apparently told people I ruined Vanessa's life, that I was emotionally abusive and controlling. A few people believed her, most didn't. The ones who mattered reached out to me privately, asked for my side, and believed me when I told them. The social media posts eventually stopped. Vanessa moved on to posting about her new relationship, her new life, her fresh start. I unfollowed her, didn't block her, just removed her from my feed. It felt like closing a chapter without slamming the book shut. Claire keeps asking if I'm dating anyone. I'm not. Don't really want to yet. I'm still processing what happened, still figuring out how to trust someone again without wondering if they're counting my assets instead of caring about me. My grandmother's house, or I guess technically Claire's house now, is quieter than it's been in years. I repainted the bedroom, replaced the furniture Vanessa took with simpler stuff from thrift stores. It feels more like mine again. Or maybe it just feels less like hers. I don't regret what I did. Transferring the deed was the smartest decision I've made in years. It protected my grandmother's legacy and taught me that being kind doesn't mean being naive. I can be soft and still have a spine. I can trust people and still protect myself. Vanessa taught me that the hard way. And honestly, I'm grateful for the lesson, even if it cost me 2.5 years and a relationship I thought was going somewhere. The house is still standing. So am I. That's enough for now.